Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys. Tuesday, October 29th, Ian Cameron, Matt Robinson with you, ready to break down the Tuesday NHL card. We've got a pretty solid slate tonight, 7 games. That's actually not the most glamorous. If you look at the matchups, there's mediocrity in some of these matchups, but still, there's actually some good betting opportunities still, quite a few. And we'll talk about those in just a moment. But first of all, we'll talk first about last night. And the Monday night slate, which aside from a couple of bets here and there, we did take a shot with Vancouver in a favorable scheduling spot with Carolina at the end of the road trip. That fell short with them losing in overtime, 4-3. And we had Calgary-Vegas over by Fecta. That fell short. Other than that, it was a phenomenal night last night in the NHL. Everything else hit for me. Hugely profitable Monday night. We had Florida-Buffalo first period over, full game over, the over by Fecta there. Florida gets a 5-2 win in the return of Alexander Barkov to the lineup. Really impressed with Florida, the maturity, the character of this hockey team. Sometimes when you play that final game before you're about to take that long trek to Europe for Finland, which they will be doing now for the 2 games against Dallas this weekend over in Finland, sometimes you're distracted. You're excited about the trip and you don't play your best game sometimes before you make a trip like this. But they did. They played a solid game, get a nice workmanlike road win, 5-2 last night against the Buffalo Sabres. Sam Reinhart predictably scoring once again against his former team, the Buffalo Sabres. How about Columbus? 6-1. Edmonton loses the game. And more importantly, and more in terms of how being nervous and more worrisome, for Edmonton as they lose Connor McDavid, who left that game due to injury, first shift of the game, never came back. A lot of vagaries right now about his status from Chris Knobloch coming out of the game, and Edmonton just didn't have it. And I don't know if the result would have changed if McDavid didn't get injured, but nevertheless, it was a great spot for Columbus. I felt they were a live home underdog. They had won 4 of the last 5 against Edmonton going into last night, so that was a great game. We had a Columbus team total over, which hit in the first period. We had the money line with Columbus. It was a really, really solid game for me overall. Big plus 220 underdog price with the Blue Jackets last night. So great to hit that with the 6-1 win. And another reason why I like Columbus is they had not lost 2 in a row, and they still have not lost 2 in a row this year. And Edmonton had yet to put 3 wins in a row together. And obviously they were looking to do that for the first time this season last night. But they fall 6-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Nashville Predators and the Tampa Bay Lightning, the return night for Steven Stamkos to Tampa Bay as a member of the Nashville Predators, but it's the Lightning who get the last laugh, a 3-2 overtime win. That being said, 2 goals for Nashville, and Steven Stamkos had a hand in both goals with 2 assists, cashing Alex B. Smith's bargain bin special on the show yesterday, which was Steven Stamkos over 1.5 points at plus 350. So it was nice to cash that for Alex there. I had a piece of that bet as well. But it's Nick Paul getting the overtime winner for the Lightning. Very emotional moment with the video tribute. And this was a video tribute that is legit. It was obviously warranted. I'm sick and tired of this bullshit and this nonsense where a 4th liner that played 10 games with a team and comes back to play them for the first time and they're still giving him a video tribute. That's absurd. This is actually legit and warranted that Steven Stamkos got this great tribute. You could see the emotion in the building. You could see the emotion on Steven Stamkos' face. You could see the emotion in John Cooper's face, too. I think he was about to maybe break down a little bit there, shed a tear or two. But very emotional moment, guy that gave everything to that Tampa Bay Lightning franchise. Comes back for the first time. But it's the Lightning getting the 3-2 win over the Nashville Predators. Their great moment it was. I really enjoyed seeing that. The Winnipeg Jets, the last remaining undefeated team, are knocked from the ranks of the unbeaten by the Toronto Maple Leafs. 6-4 win for the Leafs last night. The power play still sucks for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but 5-on-5, they had a great night offensively. What a night for John Tavares with the hat trick, and what a night for Max Pacioretty, who was placed on that second line with Tavares and Nylander by Craig Berube, and the chemistry was off the chart. And it's obviously a situation where he's got to keep that line together now. Pacioretty was phenomenal playing with Tavares and Nylander. He had 3 assists in the game last night as well. 3-point night for him. Matthew Knies continues to get better and better playing with Matthews and Marner. He scores again last night. So credit to Toronto. They hand the Jets their first loss of the night, humanizing Connor Hellebuck a little bit as well, giving up 5 goals in that game after obviously a great start to his season as well. The Leafs get a big 6-4 win. They continue to own the Winnipeg Jets. I believe that's now 6 straight wins that the Leafs have had over the Winnipeg Jets going into that game in the Trent, and it continued the dominance over them last night. And then in the late night hours last night, we saw, let me just see here, we had Chicago 5-2, another big underdog cashes for me. Once Georgiev was confirmed in, didn't take long for me to get there with Chicago at the plus price. Chicago team total over 2.5. Both of those came through, and the Blackhawks get a 5-2 win over the Colorado Avalanche, a much-needed win given their struggles. We saw Carolina, I mentioned, beat Vancouver 4-3 in overtime. Vegas with a 5-0 shutout. Just don't you dare bet against Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. Still undefeated this season at home. Vegas, I believe now, 7-0 on home ice this season, the Vegas Golden Knights. So they continue to be just playing their best hockey at the Fortress there, T-Mobile Arena. And you talk about a stunner in Utah. A 4-1 lead for Utah evaporates in the third period to the winless San Jose Sharks, who get 3 unanswered goals in the third, tie the game at 4, and then, of course, they win in overtime with the Alex Wenberg power play goal, a 5-4 shocker that San Jose gets their first win and does it by coming back from a 4-1 deficit against the Utah Hockey Club to win 5-4. And I couldn't give a shit that they did that. 2 shits about it. Why? Because all my bets still cashed on Utah in that game. Just one of those just great situations where San Jose comes back and wins 5-4, but I hit all my Utah bets. And the way I bet that game, see, it's not just what you bet, it's how you bet. And that game is a perfect example of it. We just picked the right ways to go about it with the Utah Hockey Club last night. We took Utah first period puck line. They had the strong start I was looking for, which was the best bet for me on the show yesterday. We had Utah first period team total over 1. They scored 2 goals in the first period. That hits. And we had the Utah team total over 3.5 for the full game as well. And that hits. They score 4 goals. Even though they lose the game, I went 3-0 with those Utah bets. I love it when that happens. You know, you can actually still cash all your bets on one team, even though they end up blowing the 4-1 lead and losing 5-4. It's a horrible loss for Utah, especially when that was a spot where you needed to get the 2 points and right the ship. And you still get a point, but it's a look. There's those points like Toronto got against Boston on Saturday, where it's a good point. You came back and you got the point. Seattle against Winnipeg as well. They came back in the third period, and even though they lost in overtime, that's a good point that they get with the overtime loss. That is not a good point for Utah last night. You got to close that out when you're up 4-1 at home against San Jose. They could not do that. Matt, what were your thoughts on what we saw there Monday night last night?
Yeah, there were some good games. I only really watched a lot of that Buffalo-Florida game, and then what was the other game that I spent some? Oh, the Tampa-Nashville game. Stamkos' first game back. So those were the 2 that I kind of primarily watched. Obviously, I was following along with some other games going on. I saw, the McDavid situation. Obviously, hope, he's back quickly. It was interesting that, he it was tough to see if it was really a trip or if he toe picked, but I love that he got up, and he was obviously injured to the point that he didn't return to the game. And his first reaction was to bitch at the refs about calling a penalty, and then obviously left the game and didn't come back. So that was pretty on brand, but yeah, a lot of goals last night. Obviously was following along that Utah San Jose game and was shocked to see the end. I think I fell asleep for a little bit of that game and then woke up and was like, wow, San Jose came back. It was 4-1 last night. Look, so yeah, overall pretty good night. Betting wise, I only had a handful of bets out there. I did have that same game parlay on the Florida Buffalo game, which luckily hit. Florida had those 2 in the first, and then obviously it sailed over the over of 5.5. And then I did have some Stamkos props. I got his point props, but obviously he ended up with 0 goals. I did have an anytime goal prop with him as well, but over 1.5 points, which I believe Alex mentioned on the show. Obviously did hit with his 2 assists, so that was good to see. But yeah, that was pretty much it for me last night. Didn't watch the whole slate.
Great night of betting. Hopefully we can duplicate that, though. It's not about what you've done. It's about what you're going to do. And the focus now is on this Tuesday slate and trying to put another nice winning, profitable night on the board. We'll begin this Tuesday slate with the St. Louis Blues taking on the Ottawa Senators. We've got Ottawa minus 180 home favorites here, 6 the total in this game. Don't love the spot. Certainly don't love the price for the Ottawa Senators here, coming off the road trip that they had, 3 games through Utah, Vegas, and Colorado. They lose 2 of the 3. They beat Utah, but Utah obviously has hit their first rough patch of the season. And then they lose to Colorado and Vegas 6-4 and 5-4 after that. And now they return home here, face this St. Louis Blues team. We'll see how they fare. The Blues have actually won 5 of the last 7 meetings here versus the Ottawa Senators, including both meetings last year, 4-2 in St. Louis and 5-2 here in Ottawa. St. Louis off the 5-2 loss to Montreal on Saturday night. Did not play all that great in that game, kind of predictably. The one thing the Blues are having an issue with is a little inconsistency in their game. We'll see how that goes. Linus Ullmark confirmed in net for the Ottawa. David Perron still out. Artem Zub out. And then Shane Pinto, Parlay Pinto's out week to week as well. We talked about that. It'll be Joel Hofer getting the start here for the Blues. Don't look now. Joel Hofer, 4 starts this year. He has not lost in regulation. 3-0-1 with a 2.32 goals against average, 932 save percentage, including a win against Carolina in his last start for the St. Louis Blues. So, maybe it's because Chicago and Columbus both cashed for me. Maybe that's given me a little bit more confidence to fire on these bigger underdogs. Maybe that's part of it. But I just don't see Ottawa in this spot being warranting of a minus 180 price. So I'm going to take a small shot here with the Blues, plus 150 in this spot. And look, they beat Ottawa twice last year. So I just think Ottawa overpriced in this spot. It's really that simple. And I'll probably sprinkle on the Blues team total over as well, because you can get 2.5 on it. But definitely liking the St. Louis side here at this price. Just coming off the road trip, first game back. It's never a positive spot. It's not a spot where I think Ottawa is a team I'm ready to trust at minus 180. Matt, what do you think here? St. Louis, Ottawa.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think this is way overpriced for Ottawa. I'm not rushing to bet St. Louis, but I do think there's some value there. I think for me, this is going to be a first period full game over 5.5 type of game. I do expect to see some goals. I know Ottawa has been in a lot of track meets lately. That game against Vegas on Nevada Day was obviously pretty wild. They did have a 4-goal first period against Utah. So I like at least 2 in the first. I think St. Louis is capable of grabbing 1 as well. And then, I like the full game to go over 5.5. I think that's going to be it for me on this one.
All right. As far as props go for this game, there are a couple that stand out here as far as that's concerned. If you look at the lineups right now, Drake Batherson's been phenomenally consistent here for the Ottawa Senators. Ridley Gregg up on the top line, it looks like, with Stützle and Tkachuk. There's probably some good value there, maybe to look toward Gregg now up on the top line. For the St. Louis Blues, Brandon Saad, Jake Neighbors, Alexander Tessier with Buchnevich and Kyrou. Looks like that could be your top line. He probably has some value tonight. And, of course, I'd be remiss not to mention Dylan Holloway, who, I think right now is certainly someone that is starting to get more comfortable here with this St. Louis Blues team. All right, Philadelphia and Boston. We've got the Bruins minus 160. Home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. The big underdog theme is going to continue right here for yours truly. I think Philadelphia at this price might be worth a shot. And I know Philadelphia, they've got their own goaltending problems, their own defensive problems. Now 2-7 on the season, this Philadelphia team, a brutal 1-7 in their last 8 games. But I don't love this spot for Boston. I don't. And the one thing the Bruins have not done the last week or so is win 2 in a row and play 2 good games in a row. They're off the overtime win against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday. And they've got Jonas Korpisalo in net, who I've got to see a lot more before I'm ready to lay a price with him and Boston when he's in net. Obviously, his first 2 starts here with this Bruins team, 4.58 goals against, 850 save percentage. Those are not good numbers. 9 goals allowed in those 2 starts from Jonas Korpisalo. So I think it's just Boston, the overall package is overpriced right now. They look slow. Even in the Leaf game, there were times when they were hemmed in and the Leafs are beating them to loose pucks. They're very fortunate that Toronto was undisciplined, took a few penalties in that game, and allowed Boston to gain some momentum there. You look at it, Korpisalo, like I said, he has not been good in any of his 2 starts. Philly's got issues defensively too, so I like the over as well, 6.5 in this game. I probably like the full game over more than the first period over. The one thing we have not seen is either of these teams be super strong when it comes to the first period over. So I might just stick with full game here when it comes to actually for Philly, it's 7-2 to the first period over this year. Only 5-4 for Boston. So maybe I do make it an over bifecta with probably a little bit more here though on the full game over. And like I said, I think Philly money line, Philly team total over is worth a look. I really do. I think just overall, the overall body of work for Boston is just. We're talking about a 4-5 team. We're talking about Jonas Korpisalo and net, who hasn't been good. This whole team defensively hasn't been any good. Look at the penalty kill as well. This Bruins team, we think of this great blue line, shutting things down, great on the penalty kill, always one of the top 5 penalty killing teams in the NHL for many seasons in a row. And here they are coming into this game, Boston, allowing 7 power play goals in the last 5 games. So that's just definitely not what you want to see. So I'm going to go with Philly money line, Philly team total. You can get that at a nice price, over 2.5, minus 130. And also going to go with the over bifecta here with a little bit more of that percentage of the bifecta on the full game over with this Flyers and Bruins game. We'll wait for Matt to get back, but when he does, we'll get his thoughts on the Flyers and the Bruins. For props here when it comes to this game, for Philadelphia, Morgan Frost, Forster, and Tippett. Looks like it's going to be the second line tonight. Konechny with Couturier and Mishkov on the top line for this team. We'll see how that goes for them. It's going to be interesting to see how it. But Bobby Brink is someone to keep an eye on because he's tallied 4 points in the last 6 games for Philadelphia, even though he's on the third line for them currently. Meanwhile, you've got the Boston Bruins with Brad Marchand finally, of course, against Toronto. Getting his first overtime or first goal of the season against Toronto in the overtime win the other night. We'll see if that can spark him a little bit. So in this case here, I think when you look at this Boston team, Zacha is kind of cooled off, even though he's got the opportunity. Elias Lindholm, even on the top line centering it, he's now gone 6 straight games without a point. So pretty quiet as far as offensive production lately here from Elias Lindholm too. So that's the problem. I mean, with all due respect, there's not a lot in the bottom 6. Morgan Geeky's offensive game has kind of evaporated early in the year. Patra's not giving you much. Frederick Beecher. Actually, I will say Kastelik is someone that's actually stepped up for them. 3 goals for him, including a goal against the Leafs. It's one of these deals where he's not the worst option right now if you're going to look for a longer shot goal prop, on the Boston Bruins side right now. So, but again, for the Bruins, you talk about lack of depth scoring. You talk about a defense that's looking a little sluggish, a little slow of foot, penalty kill struggling, and a goaltender that we don't trust. And you're going to put him out there tonight as a minus 160 favorite. Not the profile of a minus 160 favorite to me, which is why I think the shot is worth taking here tonight on the Philadelphia Flyers in this game. All right, next up, we've got the Anaheim Ducks taking on the New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders here, minus 240. Home favorites, 6 the total in this game. This is another in the first 3 games. It's just all about, in my opinion, these teams not being warranted of being favorites of this magnitude. I think Ottawa's a little bit, not a big overpricing with Ottawa, but a little bit of an overpricing. I thought the same thing about Boston tonight, especially with Korpisalo and net. And I think it's the same here. The Islanders are the better team. Of course they are. But minus 240, that's too big. And these are the kind of spots where we've seen the Islanders falter in the past when they're these bigger favorites against lesser lights. They've lost, especially last year. They lost their share of games in this spot. And so Anaheim, I know, is struggling. We're talking about a 3-5 team. They're off back-to-back losses to begin this East Coast road trip against the Rangers, against the Devils, but those are two pretty good teams. Let's not forget that. Islanders not quite on that level. Islanders coming off a 6-3 loss to the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers going into this game. If you look at these two teams last year in Long Island, yes, the Islanders won last year, but it was a 4-3 game. It was competitive. It was certainly not an easy game for the New York Islanders there. I think the key right now for the Anaheim Ducks is, believe it or not, they got to try to get their offense going, because that's actually been the issue with them. They have not scored more than 3 goals in 5 straight games, whereas defensively, particularly when they've had Lukas Dostal in net, he's given them some solid goaltending. He's given them the opportunity to maybe hang around in some of these games. So it's, believe it or not, the offense that's lagging and behind and maybe dragging this Anaheim Ducks team down a little bit. We'll see if they can get some of that offense back on track. Like I said, the Islanders are just an all-around up-and-down bunch so far this year at 3-2, so 3-5. If you combine the overtime losses with the regulation losses, or the overtime/shootout losses with the regulation losses, I think Anaheim's, like I said, I just think the Islanders are a little bit overpriced here. I don't mind taking a shot here, plus 200 with Anaheim. And I'm back on another Islanders draw as well. This is a team that has gone past regulation in half of their last 10 games going back to last year. And since the start of the regular season, 4 of the 8 games that they have played have gone past regulation. Again, I note that the Ducks-Islanders game in this venue at UBS Arena last year was a 1-goal game. It did not go to overtime, but it nearly did. That's enough for me. I will take Anaheim with the draw here. Dog and draw for me here when it comes to the Ducks and the Islanders. And then as far as props go for this game, again, there's a lot of people that have been quiet here for the Ducks, but we're still waiting, believe it or not, for the first goal this season from Cutter Gauthier. It's definitely been a adjustment period, I guess you could say, for him as far as the NHL. We'll see if he can light the lamp. 3 points, all of them assists for Gauthier. Troy Terry's been great with 4 goals, 3 assists. Ryan Strome, Leo Carlsson also tied for second, I should say, with points for this game. But like I said, the guys with value, Percy, with the Islanders are, I always say it, it's Holmstrom and it's Siplikov, because they're both on the top 6, but they haven't been firing yet. We're still waiting for Holmstrom, to get on the score sheet here, playing with Horvat and Barzal, and Siplikov has not really been producing all that much the last few games, but there's still value there. I think Bailey's right. Leo Carlsson is probably a good goal prop tonight with Anaheim, and Strome, and certainly Troy Terry. Troy Terry's been the catalyst of the Ducks offense so far for them this season. All right, let's move on. Seattle and Montreal. Seattle minus 170, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. Now, I'm leaning to the dog again here, believe it or not. 4th straight game I'm saying that here on this Tuesday card. I don't like this one nearly as much, though, simply because you've got a Seattle team that starts a road trip tonight in Montreal, coming off losing a few to wrap up that homestand in a row just recently, dropping the last 3 games of that Climate Pledge homestand to Colorado, to Winnipeg, and to Carolina. And to their, credit, those were 3 losses in a row, but all the pretty good teams. And you would think now going on the road, starting a road trip, there's going to be focus here, get away from home, treat it like a business trip, get off the schneid, play a great, strong road game here tonight against this Montreal Canadiens team. But I just think now it's overpriced. I mean, I can't believe how much this has moved. I mean, I think if you got Seattle initially at minus 130, minus 135, that's not bad to take Seattle at that price in this spot. But at minus 180, it's all about the move in this price. That's now why I'm interested in. That is now why I am interested in Montreal. I just think this has moved too much now. Minus 180, for Seattle, that's a huge move. And I get it. Montreal with some concerns lineup wise, with Justin Barron now ruled out, the cluster injuries on the blue line. Caden Gooley was already missing for this team due to injury. But But man, oh man, with the way they work and the way the compete level currently is with the Habs, they don't always play well, and we've seen that. They get drubbed by the Rangers. They had that bad start. They lose to the LA and Pittsburgh at home, but it's not usually a lack of competing. It's just a lack of execution. And we've seen the last 2 games. They've cleaned up the execution. They get back-to-back wins against the Blues and the Flyers. To me, it's just a little bit here. Again, overpriced favorite, just a little bit. And not initially, -130. In fact, at -130, there's a chance I'm betting Seattle in this game. But my goodness, now at -180, it's just 50 cents of a move, and I get it from a spot perspective. But with the way Montreal's been competing and starting to put some things together, especially on offense, I'm very, very impressed with lately what I'm seeing from the Canadiens there. Their power play continues to be pretty impressive. Cole Caulfield leading the league in goals. What a season he is having so far for the Montreal Canadiens. And, of course, I think a healthy Kirby Dach has made a big difference as well, getting him with Suzuki and Caulfield. That's been a great line. And by the way, Juraj Slafkovsky returning tonight for the Montreal Canadiens after a 3-game absence. He missed the last 3 games with an upper body injury, and he'll be back in the lineup tonight for the Canadiens. Looks like Marty St. Louis is going to place him with Alex Newhook and Yoel Armia on that second line for the Montreal Canadiens tonight in this game. And don't look now, the old vet who's been playing with Jake Evans and Josh Anderson lately, Brendan Gallagher has even been chipping in, and he got a 2-point night, goal and an assist on Sunday against the Philadelphia Flyers. So see if he can keep that going. Like I said, they've got no Gouli. They've got no Barron on the blue line. Logan Mailloux is going to draw in with Jack-Eye on the third pair. Savard, Hudson, Matheson, and Struble will be the top 4 right now for the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to grab just a little piece here on Montreal, +150, +155. I just think the price has moved a little bit too much on Seattle here in this game. And then as far as props go for this one, Caulfield, you got to stick with it. Doc's been great. Slafkovsky probably stepping back with Newhook, and even Alex Newhook. We've seen him the last few games start to get things clicking a little bit. He scored against St. Louis. And then for Seattle, I know the chat's all over it. They're talking about it already. Shane Wright in Montreal. There's probably a good chance he's amped for this game, and taking a shot with him to maybe find the back of the net is worth it here tonight for this Seattle Kraken team. He's probably my favorite player right now as far as a prop for Seattle tonight in this game. Keep an eye on Matty Beniers. He's someone that we think could get things rolling for Seattle. Tough start to the year, slow start. He had 1 point in the first several games, but all of a sudden, the last 2, he's got 4 points and 2 goals. This is the Matty Beniers I was expecting, kind of after a sophomore slump season last year, that he would be a lot better. And I think you're probably going to see that here for the Seattle Kraken tonight, that we'll see Matty Beniers continue, I think, to get better, make that impact for this hockey team going into this one. As far as and by the way, with this total, I do lean to the over. Both meetings last year got to 6 goals, and I see at a couple books you can get 5.5 with this total. Not many; it's 6 at most books. But if you can, certainly if you can find a 5.5, I would lean to the over here with the Kraken and the Montreal Canadiens in this game. There are a couple places that do have that 5.5. FanDuel's got it at 5.5 -140. So if you do like that over, you can take a look. But it looks like Matt's got a work emergency, so he's got to run. So there you go. Matt Robinson is out. There you go. You know what I'll do is I don't know if he had a bargain bin. I'll see if he can send me the bargain bin special and the best bet that he had for tonight. Let me just see if I can get that from him. So that's what happens when you're working from home and sometimes work calls on you. But as far as, like I said, 4 dogs. And even though I'm on the 4 dogs tonight in the first 4 games we talked about, you're looking for 2 or 3 of them to hit. And you're going to be solidly profitable if that's the case. No question. And even if only 1 out of the 4 hits, it's going to be, maybe a small loss. That's about it. So again, we're looking for at least 2 of these 4 overs to hit, or 2 of these 4 underdogs, I should say, to hit. And if that's the case, I'll be very happy between the 4 we just talked about: St. Louis, Philadelphia, Anaheim, and Montreal. We'll see how that plays out here tonight. All right, let's move along. We've got, it looks like I believe Alex has got internet connect. Remember, there's people working in his apartment this week, around his apartment. fixing a water main. So I think that's why Alex is unavailable at the moment. So it might just be you and I for the rest of this show, but that's all right. We move along. Minnesota and Pittsburgh. We've got the Minnesota Wild minus 115 road favorites, 6 being the total here in this game. I think when you look at this situation here, it's a very interesting game, obviously. You've got Pittsburgh, who is just, they are a mess right now. I can't even describe how pathetic they look defensively. Really, there's no structure in their game. None. Zero. I mean, what are these coaches doing behind the bench? I mean, could you get some structure in this team's game? It's like everyone's freelancing in the defensive zone. And that's why they don't tie up sticks. They don't block shots. They don't clear the front of the net. They're making it so easy to make plays with the puck, tape to tape in the defensive zone. It's absolutely absurd right now what we're seeing from this Pittsburgh Penguins team defensively. It's just it's awful, really. 5 straight losses. They got swept on the Western Canadian road trip. Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver. They lose all 5 of those games. Now they're back home off a long road trip. Not exactly what you want to see at all. Now, this is actually a negative spot on paper for Minnesota as well. It's the end of a long 7-game road trip for them. This is the final game of that road trip. So it's kind of bad spot versus bad spot. It's Pittsburgh off a 4-game road trip out west, back home, negative spot. Minnesota, the end of a very successful road trip where they've gone 4-2 so far. This is the 7th and final game of the road trip. This is a tough spot as well, in my opinion, for Minnesota. But at this price, I have to take Minnesota. And with the intangible that's working in their advantage here, Marc-Andre Fleury in net for the Wild. It's confirmed Yoel Blomqvist, by the way, for Pittsburgh. And Brian Rust being out is a big injury, too, because he's one of the guys that has great chemistry with Crosby. And now you take him out of the lineup. That hurts. But this is Marc-Andre Fleury's final game in Pittsburgh, because he's probably not going to come back here in this. So I think it's a situation here where I'm not muted. It's all good. I can tell when I'm muted, but it's good. And it looks like everyone can hear me. So, we'll carry on. I think there's an onus for Minnesota. Rally around it. Fleury here in this spot, playing his final game in Pittsburgh, because we know he's retiring at the end of this year. That's why they're making such a big deal of this. This will be his final game in Pittsburgh, the team where he started his NHL career. So, for me, I like, and Minnesota's just a team in better form right now. So to get them here at a small road favorite price, minus 115, I like it. I'm on Minnesota here in this price as a small road favorite in this game against the Penguins. Marco Rossi for goal prop. Yes, definitely liking that going into this matchup. Again, Malkin, Crosby, and Raquel is looking like it's going to be the top line now. Beauvillier, Hayes, Puljujarvi on the second line. It can be Puljujarvi on the second line. That tells you all you need to know right now where things are at with Pittsburgh. Drew O'Connor been bumped to the third line. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't agree with a lot of what's going on with this coaching staff and what they're doing right now with Mike Sullivan. So, like I said, I've got all kinds of issues here. To me, and yeah, Slats, I'm with you there. As far as the Minnesota side, I'll probably split it up between the money line and the team total, because this is just a defense that's continuing to be worth picking on right now, this Pittsburgh team. That's how awful they've been defending in their own zone. And you can get Minnesota's team total. You can get it at a flat 3 at BetMGM. Over 3 minus 125. So if there's the chance they only get 3 goals, you get a push out of that. So, it's a situation where, Minnesota team total over 3 minus 125, I think is worth a look to split it up between that and the Minnesota money line here at around minus 115. Like I said, for props here, Marco Rossi has been great playing on that top line with Kaprizov and Zuccarello for this team. He's been very good in that situation, so I'd rock with him. For Pittsburgh, it looks like Raquel. Actually, I think Raquel's worth a look. Raquel's going to be on that right wing side of Crosby without Rust. Raquel's going to get that spot, and he did score a couple games ago. He does have 4 goals on the season, increased opportunity. So his prop probably is the one that's most worth a look here for the Pittsburgh Penguins here in this game. But definitely a Pittsburgh team that is got all kinds of issues. And whether I don't think they're going to solve them long term, because I don't see them making the playoffs at all when you're this bad defensively. And the goaltending, look, Jari is not even there anymore. Nedeljkovic, he can be capable at times, but he needs better blue line play. And so does Yoel Blomqvist. Yoel Blomqvist can be capable, and he's actually the only reason that game against Edmonton was 4-0. It could have been 8-0. It really could have. If you watch that Oilers-Penguins game when Blomqvist played on Friday night, that could have been 7 or 8-0 for the Edmonton Oilers in that game. So I give Blomqvist some credit for actually keeping that score somewhat respectable for the Pittsburgh Penguins there in that game. All right, 2 games left as we continue along. Next up, we've got the New York Rangers taking on the Washington Capitals. This is game 1 of an ESPN doubleheader tonight. This matchup here with the Rangers and the Capitals. Got the Rangers minus 150, road favorites. The total 6 shaded to the under here in this game. Rangers obviously are a team that have had a pretty solid start to the year. They get a solid win, a workmanlike win, and with Jonathan Quick in net, of course, in that game Sunday night against the Anaheim Ducks, getting the job done 2-1. Jonathan Quick was pretty solid in that game, so got to give him credit. It was a nice bounce back after a tough loss to the defending champs, the Florida Panthers, in the game before that. So we'll see how this one plays out here on tonight in Washington. I took Washington against Tampa. They kind of got knocked down a peg for a change after a 5-game winning streak. Get snapped by the Lightning 3-0. They get shut out. I'll be honest though, they didn't play that bad. I mean, 3-0. They carried the play. 32-21 were the shots. I think you could say that Washington actually, somewhat outplayed Tampa, but Vasilevsky was outstanding. Made the saves when he had to, and just couldn't finish the opportunities that they got. So don't be fooled by the final score. I definitely think that Washington played better in that game. It's for what now? You can't just bet a team because of playoff revenge, but this is the first game since the first round series last year where the Capitals were beaten by the New York Rangers. So, we might see, should see a pretty good effort from this Capitals team in this one. Obviously, Rangers are the better team. There's no question. Shesterkin confirmed for the Rangers here in this game. Logan Thompson will get the start here for the Washington Capitals. Spencer Carberry continues to give both of these guys consistent starts back and forth in net. It's been a solid start for Logan Thompson. He is 3-0, but his numbers aren't great. It's kind of like, well, they've given him some good goal scoring support. They scored 4 for him against Vegas. They scored 6 for him against New Jersey in a 6-5 game, and then they scored the 6 against Philadelphia in his last start, Logan Thompson. But he is 3-0. He's every game he started, the Capitals have won, but the numbers are 3.28 goals against average, 884 save percentage. So again, in this situation, no, Dallas beat Edmonton, Bailey. There was one. Dallas beat Edmonton in the playoff revenge. But you're right. It's definitely not an angle you blindly bet and say, playoff revenge, you got to take Washington. That being said, I think there's some value on the Capitals tonight. I do have a piece of the Caps, plus 130 a little bit in this game. But what I really like, and you know what I really like in this game, if you've been watching this show all year, you've heard about this angle ad nauseum, the team off a shutout loss, and how strong it has been as far as the over bifecta for these teams that got shut out in their previous game. And that is the angle here tonight with Washington coming off the Tampa Bay loss, 3-0. First period overs, 12-2. Full game overs, 10-4 for games involving teams off a shutout loss. And that's the case here tonight. And is there some trepidation that, we're talking about, overs with a guy like Igor Shesterkin in net? Of course. But this is an angle that's been brilliant. This is an angle that I don't even think twice about betting because it's been so strong. 12-2 first period over, 10-4 full game over, games involving teams off a shutout loss. We will go back to it here tonight in this game. First period over and full game over here. System play when it comes to this great angle. 12-2, 10-4. First period full game overs with this team off a shutout loss. Been absolutely outstanding. So, we're going to rock with it. It was a split with this, by the way, with Pittsburgh, Vancouver. That's the last time we saw this angle in play Saturday night. First period over, actually. For most of the time, it's been the first period over hitting. And if there's one of the two bifecta pieces that doesn't win, it's usually been the full game. It was actually the reverse for Pittsburgh, Vancouver Saturday night, where the first period over did not win, but the full game over did. So this has been a very good system. First period over, minus 120. at BetMGM. And of course, full game over -130 at PointsBet. Over 5.5 -130 at PointsBet. So the angle's been great. We're going to rock right back with it here tonight with the first period over, full game over, Rangers Capitals. And I'm going to sprinkle on the Capitals just a little bit in this one against the Rangers. But like the over by Fecht is more. As far as props for tonight, there's a lot of good options here for the Rangers. Riley Smith starting to get chemistry with Zibanejad and Kreider. Could be worth a look there. Panarin's obviously been red hot. Lafreniere's had a great start to the year. Capo Caco, 5 points in the last 5 games. Is he starting to, finally show the Rangers that why he was a first-round pick years ago? But Caco with Hedl and Cooley has given them a little boost for Washington. There's still value with Protas, with Strome and Ovechkin. Connor McMichael has been very, very solid, I think, for this team. And even I've got to give the malcontent Pierre-Luc Dubois a little bit of credit. He's had a few good games recently for Washington. He had a great 3-point night against Philadelphia in that 6-3 win. Connor McMichael's been impressive to me. He's got 6 points in the last 4 games, 3 goals as well in the last 4 games for this Washington Capitals team. So I like the props tonight involving him. They got something with Connor McMichael. I remember watching him play for Canada at the World Juniors a few years ago. This is a solid player, and I think he's probably only going to get better here for this Capitals team. So definitely a nice little prop game, considering I do think we're going to see some goals based on that strong shutout angle that's been just outstanding this year so far. All right, next up, final game of this Tuesday NHL slate. We've got the Los Angeles Kings taking on the San Jose Sharks. San Jose off the unbelievable comeback last night against the Utah Hockey Club. 4-1 down in the third period, come all the way back, tie it at 4, 3 unanswered goals in the third period, force overtime, and then they win the game in OT. But now there's a tough back-to-back spot, back home against LA. Kings -290 road favorites, 6 being the total in this game. This is the one game I don't have much on. I don't think I'm going to get involved all that much. Yeah, San Jose got their first win, and you can say, look, when you're a bad team and you get the first win, you're not exactly a team I'm running to the window to say, yeah, now you're going to get a heater now and run. I've got to see it before I believe it. Let's be honest, for well over 2 periods last night, they looked like a surefire loser that game against the Hockey Club. So that, to me, give the San Jose Sharks credit. But I think a lot of that, too, was, yakking all over themselves in that game. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. We are back. All good. What I was saying about LA and San Jose is that, don't give San Jose a lot. I don't give San Jose too much credit for that comeback win. Great resilience in that, but that was a lot. Utah yakking all over themselves in that game. It was just a brutal way to lose that game if you're the Utah Hockey Club. But nevertheless, we talked about prior to that game last night that Utah had not scored more than 3 goals in any of their games since the opening game of the season against St. Louis, when Macklin Celebrini, that's the game he got injured. He had that great first period, no question. And then after that, this offense basically dried up until last night when they exploded for 3 goals and then won in overtime against Utah. We'll see how this one plays out. But LA has the rest advantage, 3-2 wins against San Jose and Utah. The one thing about LA is, we've seen them lately, and we saw this against San Jose last week when they played them in their home opener. They jumped on San Jose right away. San Jose could have been partying and whooping it up just a little bit more than you normally do for one regular season win, just because of the fact that, you had that bad start to the year going 0-9, and then you finally get that first win last night to go to 1-9, get your first win of the season. Now you're traveling from Utah, where you had to play again in thin air and high altitude, and now you got to come back home, face a rested Kings team. even though San Jose came back and won that game, we've talked about it, how in all but one game since the opening game of the year against St. Louis, since the St. Louis game, they've played 9 games. 8 of the 9 games, San Jose's been trailing in the first period. Again, 8 of the 9 games for the San Jose Sharks, including last night, San Jose's been trailing after the first period. So I don't know if I'll bet this because but I cashed with it last night and I loved it last night with Utah, especially with Utah. I thought they would come out strong and they did. Now they finished horribly, but they did start the game strong as I expected. But I do lean a little bit here to the Kings first period puck line, -0.5 plus 124. This has been a consistently slow starting, horrible starting San Jose Sharks team in these games. Again, 8 of their last 9 games, they have been trailing after the opening period, after the opening 20 minutes. So if you have to make a bet in this game, that's probably what I would look at, is LA first period puck line here. -0.5 plus 124 is what you can get with that at Pinnacle. Other than that, not a strong feel for this game, but the first period puck line on the Kings, just based on the bad starts, the slow starts for San Jose consistently, might be worth a look. As far as props go for this game, again, if the scoring has to be done by this group of 4 that have to do it, and they all got involved. Zetterlund, Granlund, Toffoli, you mix in a little Eklund as well. If you're going to bet props with San Jose, those are the guys you got to look at, because I don't know where they're going to get offense consistently from anyone else but those 4 guys. And then for LA, I still think Byfield, there's value as far as props involving him right now, because he continues to get those looks on the top line for the LA Kings. But if you look at who indeed has been contributing lately for them, it's, again, more of a committee of scoring for the LA Kings in recent games for them. We'll see if they can keep that rolling tonight against the San Jose Sharks. But again, with Byfield getting the opportunity, I do think that's probably worth a look. Brant Clark, Brant Clark, he is someone that will shoot the puck quite a bit, volume-wise, from the back end for the LA Kings. So, because of that, might be worth a look here as far as a goal prop. Warren Fogle, I think, on the third line, someone that, again, we know he was brought in to give them some depth and some offensive punch on the bottom 6. And Warren Fogle has really started to see his game start to get going a little bit. So I don't mind taking a shot with his props tonight either. Great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. 300 people watching live. Appreciate it. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube. Appreciate it very much. And of course, we're here 7 days a week with the Ice Guys show. And a reminder, appreciate all those of you as well that have subscribed and have signed up at patreon.com/iceguys, just $10 per month. Again, daily sides, totals, and player props, the daily betting card posted on the page each and every day, as well as, of course, bonus content, totals charts, goalie charts, and more. We will be having Patreon exclusive live betcasts later on this season, and those will only be available to people who are subscribed and signed up for $10 per month on the Patreon page. So make sure you sign up and subscribe. $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys. And also make sure you check out the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch, everything. They're from t-shirts, caps, hoodies, all kinds of great Ice Guys apparel and merchandise at the Ice Guys store right now. Check it out at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, we got Bargain Bin Special of the night and best bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Manscaped, Power Play Sportsbook, Raise Your Game, Tailgaters Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page.
Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
All right. Shout out to all of our great sponsors. We appreciate them all. Of course, Boston Hemp Inc. as well, daily sponsor of the show, and of course, the official sponsor of the Betcasts this season. BostonHempInc.com, 20% off all orders using the promo code IceGuys. All right. We've got bargain bin special of the night, and we're going to go to that Rangers-Capitals game, and we're going to go to Connor McMichael for the Washington Capitals. Plus 425 for him to score a goal. Heating up lately for the Caps. Plus 420, the best price available for him tonight to find the back of the net. Like I said, I like his game and where it's at right now. I think that's a great price for someone that is producing at a nice clip at the moment for the Capitals in a playoff revenge spot tonight at home against the New York Rangers. So Connor McMichael, plus 420 for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bet for tonight's card. We're going to go to that angle that I like so much, and that is that first period over Rangers Capitals for my best bet tonight. Again, this has been a brilliant angle. We know the run is 12-2 with the first period overs with these teams off a shutout loss. It's been absolutely spectacular, and I think it's going to continue here tonight. Again, with the Rangers and the Capitals, by the way, off a shutout. I think we could see those 2 goals early in the game. Another thing that I like about this bet is the Rangers have been a great first period over team so far this season, without a doubt. We've got the Rangers at 8-2 right now. 6-2 to the first period over so far this season. Washington, not so much, but with Washington off a shutout loss, the focus is fixing your offense, getting it going. And that is what we're going to rock with. And this is actually a more reasonable first period over price than a lot of them. Minus 118, minus 120 is what I'm seeing with it. So Rangers Capitals, first period over, 1.5, minus 118. That is going to be my best bet here for this Tuesday NHL card. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys Show. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. And again, it's one of those days. Alex has had technical issues. Matt Robinson had a work call emergency right in the middle of the show. So it was just you and I for the majority of this show. But I enjoy doing these solo shows. Nobody have pity for me or say, oh, poor Ian, he's got to do the show by himself. I don't mind at all. I like it. Actually, we get through the show quicker when it's just me, which is the best positive when I'm doing the show solo, flying solo like this. But appreciate everyone joining me and being on part of this show every day. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Tuesday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Matt Robinson earlier, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will be back with you tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys.